Pushing the boundaries of expectations, rewriting the rules of adventure are the reasons we get up in the morning. We share your hunger for a life without limits.
Hello, KBs. Welcome back for another occasion for edification, celebration, encouragement, all right here at your place where you are championed. And I am so glad to have you back with us today. We've been off for a few days, and I am rip-roaring ready to go. Are you, Maggie?
Yes.
The website is stephenkenya.com. How are you?
I am fabulous today.
I
feel
sunshine.
Refreshed. Yeah. Some much-needed rest occurred.
When's the last time you went swimming?
That's a good question.
It's been a while.
It was with my niece.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where was that? But it was like 2 years ago, wasn't it? That was before we went over to Europe, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. That's true.
And it's not that we haven't had an opportunity, but I was just thinking, I want to go swimming. I like to swim.
Oh,
what?
You're forgetting, Stephen. Costa Rica. We went swimming in the ocean.
Oh, that's true. I'm thinking swimming pool.
Yeah.
You're right. We swam in Costa Rica every day. That's
day,
true.
Yes.
Question for you. Another one. What was one of your favorite things to do as a kid? And before you answer,
okay.
I'm going to tell you the reason I'm asking, because that might change your answer.
Okay.
The reason I'm asking is the answer can be very telling as to what makes you you. So we're all about to find out something.
Okay. Well, it didn't change my answer. And it was a gut reaction. I just knew it immediately. Climbing trees was everything.
Okay, but now let's unpack this.
Oh, gosh.
To use one of your expressions. Why did you like to climb trees? Why is that something you enjoy doing?
Are you kidding? The sensation, the you can go up so high and see so far, and it just gives you this, it's the sensation of it.
Change of perspective, maybe.
Change of perspective.
See beyond the yard.
Well, yeah, and it's one of the most epic things I think you can even do as a kid. It feels so supernatural or something.
Well, it challenges you physically too, doesn't it?
It does, and I guess it depends on the tree as well. We had some very good climbing trees, but it had sort of a sad end. I went to the very top of a very, very tall pine tree, and I got stuck. I couldn't figure out how to get down. I was pretty young, and then they chopped off the low branches.
Okay, now we're beginning to see something here.
Stop psychoanalyzing.
But now, were you stuck were you afraid of height, or did you get your tennis shoes wedged in a tree?
No, I just got to the very top, and I'm a little girl, and I actually remember this very well. I looked down, and I couldn't see where to put my foot. I just couldn't see. My little brain could not compute how to backtrack.
So throwing caution to the wind gets you up the tree, but then caution comes back on another breeze, and you're like, wait a minute.
Well, I really just couldn't see it. Yeah. Because, it makes sense going up because you can see the path, but then you're a kid and you can't quite. Maybe I was stupid.
You can't see your foot.
Well, I couldn't see the branch. I was supposed to put my foot on to then backtrack down. So I just started yelling, Mom, and she came out there and she's
like, where are you?
She literally said, put your right foot, down on this one.
Down.
Yeah, she just told me how to do it.
Okay, so is the sensation of being up off the ground. Now, are you afraid of heights?
Not tree height, maybe skyscraper heights gives me some wooziness. But no, I don't have a fear of heights, no.
Okay, so the physical challenge, that's interesting, and I'm going to work on this. There's something in there that...
There is something, I have to say, though, even now, the sensation of climbing up through a tree, up through the leaves, the branches, toward the sunlight, it's pretty fantastic. You have to admit, it's a very cool thing we get to do.
You're feeding the appetite of the adventurous soul, and that wants to experience something new and get away from the grind.
Yeah. Oh, and I would occasionally take a book with me and kind of wedge myself up there.
Now, that's pretty cool.
That was cool, too. Yeah.
What a space. So you're away from the noise of the world. You're above it. And you're above the scenery. And there you are in your own little bird's nest, propped up there in the tree with a book.
Yeah. And you also feel unseen. No one's looking up there. You kind of feel hidden.
Sort of in the hiding space.
Yeah.
So like your dad could come home from work and you'd watch him drive in and he wouldn't know that you're...
Oh, yeah.
There in the tree.
You feel very clandestine, like you have your own little hideout. And can we move on? Because I'm sweating now. I feel like we're going to reveal some horrific
Sure.
childhood tendency.
Sure. Yeah, we'll move on. Okay, so, all right, I'm thinking to answer the same question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Okay.
You can't get out of this one, Steve. But
Well, I like climbing trees too, but I can't do that now. You did that one.
I took
But I like to climb trees.
That's probably why we're married.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do as a kid, all right, I enjoyed hiking, and I'd hike through the forest, across a horse pasture, around a fish pond, and across this large open field to this small convenience store. And I would use money that I'd saved from giving pony rides to other kids in the neighborhood to buy a box of chocolate instant pudding. And then I would hike back home. And I'd make a bowl of chocolate pudding,
This is so
and I would
specific.
watch Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, and the Brady Bunch back to back. And I had it timed out to where I would be licking the bowl when I got to the moral of the Brady Bunch story.
Oh my gosh. Off the cuff,
That was just one of my favorite
Oh, I don't
things
know. Maybe.
to do. Okay, unpack it.
Let's analyze this pudding, Steve.
Or is it the moral to the Brady Bunch story?
It turns out you're a monster after we unpack it.
No.
No.
That's fun.
I love it. It's funny though, because I thought you were just when you first started telling that story, I thought, okay, Huck Finn.
Yeah. Well,
you're just reading the story of Huck Finn.
There was usually a sweet ending to most of Huck's.
Now, I have to say, I don't know if you've told this. I truly don't remember if you've told this story on the podcast before, but I love the way that you describe riding your pony up a creek. I just think that's the coolest thing. I mean, imagining having that experience as a child by yourself, it just sounds it sounds almost impossible.
It was very surreal, as you can imagine the light coming through, the sun coming through the canopy and sparkling on the creek and the water.
On.
And yeah, I would ride Duchess up a creek out in the forest for, a long time.
I love how you were
just go and go and go, and if we would explore that way.
I love that you were just this, manifesting machine at 6 years old.
Why not, right?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Well,
amazing.
as we kind of probe into some of these questions that are so much fun to answer.
They are. Yeah. Oh, and I want to
think
hear from
about.
I want to hear from KBs. I do. So
That's a good one for them to respond to.
Favorite childhood
Yeah.
memory? No, not memory. Activity.
Experiences and activities, things that you would enjoy doing that you felt like was unique to you.
Kinetic Believe.
Yeah.
Kinetic Believe at StephenCanyon.com. Send them there. We want to hear.
Please do.
We'll share them on the next podcast.
While we're into psychoanalysis here, and even therapy perhaps.
Right.
But in all seriousness, unpacking things like this, it's really become a popular remedy for a lot of postmodern relationships. And
True.
probably on more of a serious side of things, relationships that are warring with one another, including those people who wake up and go to sleep every single day at odds with themselves. Now, not talking about with other people, but they are
Inner struggle.
inner struggle with themselves, and they don't like who they pretend to be in life, and they don't like the way that they perceive others seeing them, and it's that typically is when you get caught up in those energetics and that game, you're usually wrong, but you are imagining people to see you in a negative way and based on your past experiences. And these are people that they don't like what they feel they have to do. They don't like what they are making allowances for. They don't like what they go through their day pretending to be, masquerading to be. They don't like that they don't like. And they don't like. They're just not enjoying life because they feel dishonest in all of their pursuits.
This is making me think. I was watching a wonderful painting tutorial on YouTube. I love to do. It's so relaxing. I love doing that in the evenings. But it had over 200,000 views. Maybe 2,000 likes, and 22 people had thumbs down on YouTube, this sweet little painting tutorial.
Sad, isn't that sad?
How upset with yourself and tormented do you have to be?
These are the people that don't like. They don't like whatever
exactly.
is in front of them, and especially, and we know this to be true, as soon as you start living your best life, you're going to have some haters and people that are wondering, who are you to not be suffering like the rest of us?
I think it's interesting too. I love that you just reminded us of that, because it's not one of those things that's iffy. We're not waiting to see if people will have a problem with us living our best life. It will happen. And not to manifest that, but to be very prepared for it, because if you see it coming, you can just keep on sailing. So that's huge.
That's right. And as you use your dominion and your control to operate yourself in a way that begins to stretch toward beyond the limits of what you can see to begin manifesting your best life, holistically, things around you begin to change that are out of your control. In other words, we always, often say, if you want to change your environment, your circumstances, change yourself. If you want to change other people, you change yourself. Change your family, you change yourself. That is where dominion begins and ends.
Yes.
That's effective. And so for the kinetic believer, if it hasn't happened for you already, you begin going through the process of change, and everything begins changing around you. I mean, the way strangers react to you becomes different. Yes. Pets and animals and dogs and birds and trees and life, and the way the sun appears to you, and the sound of birds, and the feeling of the breeze against your skin, everything begins to change. Your health, your eyesight, your dreams at night, it all changes for the better. It becomes positive as a kinetic believer. But certain things have to happen first. And the issue, and I think what I'm trying to bear out here as we unpack your story, and then
as we unpack your pudding,
my pudding
obsession.
But there is, or the détente, or the relieving of tensions in a person's life. It's only superficial when it seemingly comes from examining the fruit of problems. And that's what we do. People will take the load of their life's problems, and they run to somebody else that has problems as well. And let's throw them all out here on the table, and let's work on these together. And you're stirring up all of these the fruit of all of these issues. And through this process, when you meditate on what you don't like, it is a guarantee that you're going to continue to experience what you don't like.
Yes.
Until you change yourself, which has nothing to do with anybody else and everything to do with you. Everything to do with you. Your source of being, your source energy of life, the roots that you're putting down into your genius of purpose, and looking within to elevate yourself above the noise of the world. That's where the lasting change comes from.
I love this dictate of changing yourself when you want to change anything, because when you are in it, when you're focusing on your problems, you don't quite, it never hits you for some reason that I am the theme. I am the common denominator to all of these problems. There's only one common thread to everything that I'm complaining about, or everything that I'm experiencing, good or bad, and that is me, which seems super obvious, but it's not something that we love to admit before we become a kinetic believer. So this is huge.
Being a kinetic believer, a successful one, that is an issue for every single living, breathing human being, spiritual being having a natural experience on the planet. No one is immune from this, from the top of the heap all the way down to the bottom. It doesn't matter if you're Bezos or Bozo. Regardless, in between, and everybody, if you're listening to today's Kinetic Belief podcast, you're part of the grand human experiment. And that is to deal with issues. Yeah. To figure out, to solve problems, to puzzle your way through this thing, to navigate, to become enlightened above your sensory perception of ego, where you're identifying with the forms of the empirical world, and rather than gravitating naturally toward those things, we look within to begin embracing through the imagination and our desires the archetypal life experience that we want to manifest, bringing that out from the unseen to where we can experience in this life.
This is why I love when you tell us to be lighthearted, because you do have to have an amazing sense of humor to go through life saying, It's me. I'm what needs fixing.
You're the bozo.
Every day, all day, I'm going to take care of this.
But that is the purpose of life, is to recognize and to embrace your genius of purpose and say, you know what, I am authentic. I am different. As part of the collective, I bring my individuality to the collective so that we can expand all in harmony and unison to become more.
Doesn't that sound fun? Just what you just described, this idea of collectively coming together in diversity, looking at everyone for their differences, celebrating those differences, celebrating all of these unique little genius of purposes running around.
It is fun because, you know what, that is the way to pass this life test, this grand experiment, and to graduate and to move on. And that is by awakening our higher being to our higher consciousness and to go through the day in that presence of higher consciousness with an awareness, with a peace, and never hurrying or worrying, and not being stressed out and taking, like you're saying, life too serious. It's not supposed to be a serious thing. It's only serious when you wrap yourself up in the issues of fear and doubt and worry.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, how I've noticed when I get serious, I get very... probably the word would be stiff. You know, when you lose the ability to be kind of limber in your life, limber in your pursuit. You lose that ability to zig and zag and bob and weave, and you know, you gave the analogy of when you're sailing, you tack. You don't go in a straight line. You tack from side to side to reach your destination, and so it's an interesting outcome. When we get serious, we get very pent up, and we have no ability to adapt.
Yeah, you know, seriousness is a manifestation that comes out of being unconscious. And the human experiment has been unconscious really from the beginning and is a problem. And it is a problem, it has been since humans began to imagine. Imagine that all of their difficulties of soul and circumstances could be solved by the unaided power of human reasoning. And that's where we have philosophies and reasoning your way through issues and problems, which causes a great deal of seriousness and depression and anxiety, fear and worry and doubt and all those things, mistrust with self and all others.
Is that because we were never meant to do it ourselves, because we're not involving our Creator and the universe in this process?
Well, we are, yes and no, in that we are meant to do it ourselves, but choosing the involvement of wisdom, the involvement of the Creator, looking within for the design of wisdom to be applied as a lens over our genius of purpose. Because it comes down to choice, which is the authority of dominion.
Right.
Which is a whole nother, that's a huge topic. Thank you, May. That's another podcast. But, you know, it's individual responsibility, but to where you are looking for the answers, because, you know, it's in the duplicity of a combined effort with your Creator, with the energetics of unconditional love toward all others that opens you up to receive things that are greater than you've ever thought of or imagined before. So it's the camaraderie of relationship with your Creator that through the acknowledgement of unconditional love, and you're saying, you know what, I love who I am. I'm not trying to become something that I would rather love, but I love who I am.
Wow.
And that's acknowledging your God, your Creator, the imagination that first had a bias for the individual that you're supposed to be, and then aligning your own decision and pathway with that was granted to you. That's the best life, because that is the super on your natural that. I can't look around the equipment.
Yeah, I've got the shirt on again.
Supernatural. You're a supernatural, kinetic believing supernatural.
I did wash it since last time, I promise. I know I
good.
wear it a lot. I love that everything you just said was so powerful, because I really love how you were taking the concept of unconditional love and lofting it up, putting it up on this high pedestal as the answer. It is something that is intrinsically deeply, universally powerful, eternally powerful, because I think a lot of times, you know, we joked about the word cheesy the other day, and I just hear when we talk about love, somebody going, "Oh, let me guess, the answer is love." All we need is love. Okay. But it's funny because it's true, getting our mind to cross over that threshold and to actually, embrace the true, eternal, limitless power of unconditional love. That's our fuel. That's what all this whole thing is running on.
Unconditional love, just a broader, a beautiful way of saying acceptance. Acceptance without judgment. And accepting that, the world and all of its various life forms are evolving toward perfected completion. And I accept that. I accept where another human being is in their evolutionary process of enlightening their conscious state of being in relationship with what is already within them. They don't need to be at the same level that I am, and I certainly don't need to be at the level they are. We're all moving through this at a rate that is necessary for each individual, and I accept that. I'm saying that I unconditionally love that, and by doing so, I'm nurturing the energetics in my own life to remain highly energetic and positive to attract more life, more sustenance for living and breathing and being and manifesting the version that brings me the most satisfaction and therefore everyone else.
Well, what you're saying, it reveals how important it is to permanently redefine unconditional love, in our mind, in our inner vocabulary, the definition of it, because it takes it from being just this warm, fuzzy, a nice, sweet idea, and it moves it over into this concept of, and into this truth, really, of it's the answer, it's the secret, it's the key that will unlock your best life and the permanence of your best life every single day.
There's so many people that like to consider themselves to be a deep thinker. And I'll say, well, what do you mean by you enjoy being a deep thinker? And they'll say something like, well, I'm like a philosopher, and I consider, and look, philosophers have tried to come up with reasons for the failures of humanity. So be really careful when you talk about being a deep thinker. To be a positive deep thinker, you're looking within with the energetics of unconditional love, which is light and health and abundance and prosperity and joy and happiness and all those things. If you are a deep thinker, where you're judging other people for the things that they do that you think are wrong.
Wow.
Or coming up with reasons for your own sense of failures or everyone else's, you're going to continue to attract that in your life. That's what you're manifesting. And so the understanding of acceptance and unconditional love is a first thing, like you say, it's a key that sets you free from experiencing the very thing you're judging others to be guilty of.
Well, and I have to say, I don't think I've ever gone around saying I'm a deep thinker, but I do know that I have a tendency to overanalyze too many things in life. And so this is a flag, what you're telling us right now. This is very important because when you have a tendency to analyze, you have to make sure that you're not developing this negative, judgmental, centric way of viewing and thinking and processing information, because it can easily turn into that. If you have that analytical way of, just you enjoy it. You enjoy unpacking everything, if you will. So making sure that we're using that power for good.
If you enjoy being analytical, which is certainly part of the process of being a successful kinetic believer, is to be analytical. But the thing that you want to examine are your thoughts that are coming into your mind, into consciousness, and analyze those. If they're negative, then notice it as an observer and smile at it and say, "I see you." You're analyzing those thoughts, and that's as far as being an analyzer should go.
Yeah.
And you're working on self, and then the aptitude of unconditional love and acceptance is the broad brush stroke that we use for all of life, for the world around us.
That's powerful.
The ancient paths of mysticism and all of the religions in the world resolved so many of the problems of the unconscious. Actually, you go all the way back to the very beginning, even before it became a problem. For the first requirement was that humans should know themselves. Humans should understand who they are by examining themselves, by being analytical. And so as they turned attention toward themselves and each other, all of the various thought disciplines discovered very quickly that this was a huge destructive force of nature and was revealing things that were actually inaccurate, but were propositioned as being a reality based on negative judgments. In other words, there were so many different forces of nature that have their counterparts in the soul of humans. And our very being, the essence of you and me and the listener, you listeners, the very essence is not just a simple unit. You're not just one, but a pantheon of gods and demons that are warring one with the other. All of this eclectic noise, confusion, and warring factions of condemnation, all of this stuff, if it's entertained and given a platform for speaking into your life without your analytical perspective, recognizing it, the voices and all the stories and all the narratives that are coming and going, if you don't analyze those and say, I see you, and I'm not going to follow after that, I'm remaining here in unconditional love, then you can begin casting down imaginations and sorting through all of the noise of the world like we talk about and simplifying your presence, your genius of purpose to remain steadfast in the expectation of your best life manifesting.
Some of my favorite books that I've read, I love when at the very beginning they give you a list of all the characters that you're going to be interacting with. And I feel like you just did that for us. So we're understanding the players, understanding the arena, the setting is going to be a huge part of our success. And I love this concept that, you're just, it's sort of like the Trojan horse thing. I saw a funny tweet the other day. This guy was like, he said, I would absolutely have, signed the receipt slip for that Trojan horse. Like, I'm that guy. Like, I'm so gullible. I'm so unaware of what's going on around me. But, this is empowering, knowing what to look out for, who to look out for.
Where to apply your attention. What are you paying attention to?
Yeah.
What is your expectation? What is your belief that you're adhering to and relying upon? Because, look, the deep-rooted issue is this. Imagined negative outcomes of potentiality chips away at your confidence because one gives when you give your attention to the wrong information of things like, well, what's wrong with me? Or why do I make so many mistakes? Why are you listening to these narratives that are speaking to you, that are telling you, most likely from past experiences and things you believe that other people have said about you? And so you're asking yourself the question, which is going to beg the answer of, why do so many people not like me?
So I want you to say that again, the negative potentiality, that line, I want to write that down. That is hard hitting. I need that.
Yeah. The negative outcome of potentiality, that's imagined. It chips away at your confidence. It's the repetitious firing of the synapses of the mind, the thoughts, the brain, the ego. The ego's state of being is always on, so it's chipping away at your confidence, and it's because you're giving your attention to the wrong information. And so you're asking those negative questions. Why am I not like other people that I admire? And so the manifestation of all of that negative self-talk that's rising up out of that chipping away it's just self-inflicted condemnation.
So you are describing a preconceived instinctual tendency to imagine the negative outcome when we're presented with a new scenario, it doesn't have to be a problem, but maybe you're starting a business and the thing that's always popping into your head are all the ways you're going to fail. And I'm wondering, I'm wondering why isn't it our tendency to go, oh man, what if this works? What if this works out? What if this is amazing? Is it because we're so egocentric and we're rewiring ourselves? Why is the negative always that sort of base tendency to consider, to imagine?
Because we're still climbing up out of that primordial substance that says that you have to reason with those factions that are coming in and challenging the idea of your best self. And the reasonings are the thing that keeps you down, and it keeps you under the sense of condemnation. And this is why it is vital to your success to the purposeful kinetic believer that they indulge in positive thought affirmations like it's a bowl of chocolate pudding. Indulge in it. And so, you know what? I'm going to watch I Dream a Genie, and I'm going to indulge in positive thought affirmations. And I'm going to be writing these down, and I'm going to say them out loud. And when I lick that glass spoon of that taste of thought affirmations, I'm going to stir up another bowl and watch Gilligan's Island. But it's the indulging in
it was indulging.
Sweet, positive thought affirmations, just like those no-bake cookies sitting there right beside of you. I know. And that's a positive thought affirmation.
Do you know how much pudding one box of pudding makes? It's so much.
It was a big bowl, but I was a big teenager too.
Can you imagine walking in to your house and seeing your child consuming an entire bowl of pudding?
Oh, everybody was at work,
right?
So I knew what I was doing.
You timed it perfectly.
Yeah, I could also hear a car if it were to drive.
You were not imagining negative outcomes.
I was not. Because,
you were not.
Look, it's impossible to imagine a negative outcome while speaking a positive one out loud.
Oh, wow.
It's not possible to do that. So if you stir up that indulging positive thing, you cannot think a negative thought. It is not possible while speaking a positive one.
I love that you are telling us that speaking positive affirmations, positive outcome imaginations is indulgent. That is a very cool reframing of that, because many times we can get caught up in the work ethic of kinetic belief, the idea that, oh, I've got to say my affirmations, I've got to say it, but the idea that this is indulgent, it's luxurious, it feels fantastic, it's this amazing, beautiful thing that we get to relax into and inhabit. I love that word.
Now, if you were not aware of bad feelings and bad emotions, it wouldn't be an indulgent.
Right. Yes.
It wouldn't be a requirement. And so I'm not saying that, bad feelings and bad emotions shouldn't be ignored. No, pay attention to them, because now you know that you can go stir up a cold batch of chocolate pudding. What I'm saying is that, we must recognize those bad feelings and emotions and analyze them for what they are. And so that and then choose to move on with your positive affirmations.
I feel like everybody's sitting at home thinking, did they get a weird pudding?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to move on from what you enjoy.
Is this a pudding ad?
It should be, right?
It's our new advertiser.
The practice of living our best lives is not a dishonest one, Meg. And we don't enter into some kind of dialogue about negative feelings and emotions because it strengthens those negative energetics to become us. You and I, we don't talk about it. No. Whenever there's a negative thing, we intentionally stir up a bowl of pudding.
We really do, though. I mean, I know that we both, it's become so instinctual now, but we immediately get our spiritual backup because we are hyper protective of the life that we have kinetically built and worked in the positive way, but worked very hard to achieve it and live it every day. So, you do sort of develop a protective aggression toward that.
It's a way of life on purpose, a direct, on purpose way of life, because we understand that, at the root of self-doubt is fear, period. The fear of not fitting in, the fear of what others might say, a lack of confidence is the result of measuring yourself competitively against the performances of other people. And so in preparation for going out into the world, going into the workplace, going to the office, going to visit with family, whatever it is you're doing, when you feel as though you are lacking self-confidence. Now, and this is an assumption, and it is a state of consciousness that's telling you a story. It's telling you a fable about why you are unworthy. But the kinetic believer who meditates to think, I am not fearful because I will succeed wherever I am, with whoever I'm with whatever I've got. that's the person that's overcoming every single negative obstacle.
I think it's interesting that you just a moment ago said that the life you're describing, your best life, is your authentic life. And that's incredibly interesting to me, because the first thing you're going to hear from the haters that we mentioned, even if they're subtle, they're going to say, who do you think you are? Why do you think you can be successful? Why is this going to work out for you? And they immediately attack your authentic self that you have finally stepped into. And I just think that's interesting, that that's absolutely the first thing you hear.
And you no longer see it as a threat when you recognize that it's just noise.
Yeah.
It's bluster. It's noise.
Yeah.
And and I want to tell you something. No one is stopping you from achieving what you want to accomplish. You can identify every area in your life when you doubt yourself and kinetically believe to remove those doubts and to see those doubts removed. And it's when a person feels in control that they're not afraid. Like you're climbing the tree. When you feel in control, there you are, those strong legs, you're pushing yourself up the tree. There's nothing to be fearful of. You're in control. But when you have a level of wisdom for confidence, the peace that you have removes worries and it removes doubts. The key to confidence is diligent work at becoming the best version of yourself. Confidence develops strong beliefs in yourself. And I'll tell you that nobody else can do this for you. You're in this game alone. Now, you can surround yourself with other KBs and celebrate and champion and edify and encourage each other, but nobody can do this for you. No one else is going to do this for you. You can spend a lifetime trying to get someone else to do something for you, or through the power of your kinetic belief, overwhelm your present life with the manifesting power of all things being possible for you. Fearless confidence with belief in your purpose for living, for breathing. That's the thing that advances you. And no one is a mistake. No one is supposed to represent mediocrity in this life. No one is supposed to be poor or broke or sick and disgusted. Every single person is a viable, magnificent, extraordinary, one-of-a-kind human being. So live like it, believe like it, and act like it, love like it. Your love will never cost you anything, but your love will give you access to the world that you believe in and that you imagine to see. I was reading earlier this morning, Marcus Aurelius, the ruler of the Roman Empire for almost 2 decades. And
that's a long time for Rome.
Right? But he wrote he was the author of the Immortal Meditations, and great book. But he wrote that, he said, things have no hold on the soul. They stand there unmoving outside it. Disturbance comes only from within, from your own perceptions. Choose your desires and imagine to receive them and be grateful for them. Speak the language, act, and you will attract the life you desire. That is the power of kinetic belief. Well, let's work on some highest viewpoints. Just say, I know how to attract the wisdom.
I know how to attract the wisdom.
To make decisions for myself.
To make decisions for myself.
And because they are my decisions.
And because they're my decisions.
They're the best decisions.
They are the best decisions.
I have all that I need.
I have all that I need.
To make today a great day.
To make today a great day.
I am.
I am.
And always will be.
And always will be.
Enough.
Enough.
I acknowledge
my
own self-worth.
My own self-worth.
My confidence is rising.
My confidence is rising.
I'm casting down every negative feeling.
I'm casting down every negative feeling.
About myself.
About myself.
About my life.
About my life.
And I accept all things.
And I accept all things.
Working together for my best life.
Working together for my best life.
I always attract.
I always attract.
Only the best of circumstances.
Only the best of circumstances.
And I have the best positive people in my life.
I have the most positive people in my life.
Guess what?
Hey, guess what?
I am courageous.
I'm courageous.
I am also willing.
I'm also willing.
To kinetically believe.
To kinetically believe.
To act and to face.
To act and to face.
What used to be.
What used to be.
My fears.
My fears. Wow. I think I speak for all the KBs listening. Thank you for reminding us of who we are today and reminding us of our worth and our value and our genius of purpose, because that's something we have to remember and we have to be aware of to well, I don't want to just say live our best life, but to truly live it, to grasp it and to do it together. This has been incredibly, almost like a salve to the soul.
Oh, to all you kinetic believers all around the world that are advancing toward your perfected completion, we're sending out much love and light to all you guys.
Yeah, and thanks especially today, Steve, for all the wisdom.
Bye.